Hello, youth. This is your midweek encouragement. I hope you guys are having a good week and enjoying the sunshine outside. It's beautiful out there today. Um, so we're in Hebrews chapter 11, going through the Hall of Faith, and up till now, the things that have been mentioned have been they've kind of told us why the characters that we've talked about are in there. And they've told us some of the things that they did to be listed in the Hall of Faith. And where the author of Hebrews is moving now is it almost kind of feels like, he was getting on this train of thought and he realized, oh shoot, like if I really try to unpack this for every character, this thing could end up to be really long. And so, as we're going to see, we've been looking at a whole verse. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at a portion of a verse because the author just kind of name drops some folks and then moves on. So this week, we're in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 32. It says, "What more shall I say? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon," and we're going to stop right there because we're going to talk about Gideon. And those of you who have heard me give my spiel about Gideon before, I don't like Gideon. I'm actually moderately frustrated about Gideon. But here we are. And for just a quick recap, Gideon was this person who was called to be a judge, and he kind of had some fear and some failures, don't we all? But one of the things that he's characterized by is this thing where he needs a lot of proof. And what's interesting is God actually does give him a significant amount of proof. He's the dude that lays out the fleece and it's wet and then everything around it's dry and vice versa the next day because he asked for God to do it twice. And so just time and again, Gideon really shows that he is relying on God for the things that he accomplished as the judge of Israel. And that is what the author of Hebrews notes here in the book of Hebrews, that Gideon had faith. Like, he is to be remembered for his faith. But my rub with Gideon comes towards the end of his life, where then he seems to start to take on a lot of credit for what he did, and he kind of makes it about him. So much so that he even would he's like, no, don't make me king. But then he names his kid, "My dad is king," kind of giving us a window into I think a false humility. So that's like my scrape with Gideon. But the author of Hebrews includes Gideon in the Hall of Faith. And for me, it's this excellent reminder that Gideon did have faith. Despite all of his failings, he was fearful, he was doubtful, he needed a lot of proof. Literally, he has to have his dad come along and bail him out when he goofs up. And then even towards the end of his life, his legacy is that he denied being king, but maybe he really wanted a lot more credit than he was due. And despite all of those failings, the author of Hebrews notes Gideon as a person of faith in the Hall of Faith. And then to say, well, Hunter, quit being so critical of this guy. Good point. To turn that back on us, our faith, even when it goes through times where we're doubting, or when we go through times where we are fearful, or when we go through times where maybe we're more prideful than we ought, even in those times, we can still have faith. And what is important is that we recognize that our faith is in God, is in Christ, and that we look to Jesus as the one who does all of the stuff. Paul talks about how through our weakness, Christ, the strength of Christ is revealed. And that's something that I think that Gideon didn't really embody towards the end of his life. I think he got caught up in a little bit of glory. But when we start thinking of our failings and the ways that we can fall short, it is remember that our God is faithful. Even despite us going through those things, he is still a God worth having faith in, and he's not going to just say, well, you kind of goofed, so we're done. No, that's not how our God works. And so this is an encouragement to as you seek to live out your faith, and there's going to be times where it goes really well and it seems to be just kind of coming naturally and it feels really good. There's going to be other times where there's going to be sin and there's going to be times of trouble. And I would just remind you that in both of those seasons, we can learn a lesson from Gideon. Yes, he's included in the Hall of Faith, but that's not without shortcomings. His faith is still remembered, but we can learn a lesson that in both the good times and the bad, we are to rely on God and give praise to God and reveal that our faith is in God, not because of the stuff God does or the stuff accomplishes, but in who God is, despite the other things. So this is Gideon. I could rant forever about Gideon, but I won't to keep this short. We'll see you guys on Sunday night at 4. We have regular youth group. We're going to continue talking about our miracles series, and Jesus is going to do some water walking, which is going to be pretty dope. And then we got small groups coming up next week. Also, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. As of right now, things look good for tubing. I'll keep you guys posted. And we got some March events coming out, and we'll let you guys know more about those on Sunday night. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Love you guys. See you soon.